Let's examine other features that we have in the Server Explorer. You can see that I have a tab called Data Connections. By default, there will be no connections available here. Let's go ahead and delete this connection and add it from scratch. In order to add a connection to a data source, you would right-click on the data connection, select Add Connection. This will pop up the Add Connection wizard. So let's say we have a SQL Server database that we want to use within our application. The Add Connection wizard lets you make that connection to that database without writing a single line of code. Let's examine the information we need to provide. By default, it will ask you for a data source. You can change this to use Access, ODBC, SQL Server, Oracle, or any of the .NET data providers that are available. In this case, we're connecting to Microsoft SQL Server. We're going to connect to the Northwind database, so select OK. For server name, type in the machine that you wish to connect to. If the SQL Server is on the same machine, you can simply type localhost. Select the refresh button. Most databases are secured. Oftentimes they'll use Windows authentication, which relies on pass-through credentials based on the username that you're logged into the current machine. Or you can use SQL Server authentication to allow you to provide a username and password that you've preset in SQL Server. In this case, our SQL Server is configured for pass-through authentication using Windows. We'll keep that as the option for security. Next, you'll need to select a database to connect to. From the drop-down list, Visual Studio will iterate through the databases that are available on that machine and list them for you in the drop-down list. As you remember, earlier we added the script for Northwind and Pubs. You'll see those here. The other databases are installed by default with SQL Server. Let's select the Northwind database. We can test the connection by clicking the Test Connection button. Our connection succeeded. Select OK and OK again to add the connection to the Server Explorer. As you can see, we now have a connection in our Server Explorer. We can expand this connection and iterate through the elements that are inside the database, such as tables, the columns within the table. We can look at stored procedures, and other things such as views, functions, and types. Not only can we iterate through these, but we can right-click and also design our tables. By right-clicking on a table, we can select Open Table Definition, and this will provide us the ability to change data types for our columns, add new columns, or allow nulls for column data types. Below, in the column properties, we could also manipulate the settings for a particular column. For example, we can set identity seeds here by expanding the identity specification. This will allow us to increment our primary key by 1 every single time a new row is added. Close this option without making any changes. Likewise, we can choose to add new tables. We can even add new databases should we want to by creating a new SQL Server database. The Server Explorer is not just something that you look at to view information, but you can see that you can create new information, new objects, new services, and new databases through the Server Explorer. The Server Explorer is also interactive with your canvases, so I can drag and drop tables from my Server Explorer onto my design form. In this case, we don't have an application, so let's go ahead and create one. Select File, New, Project. Earlier, we had reviewed the different project types that are available. Let's experiment with the tools in Visual Studio 2008 depending on the different project types that we set. Let's start off with a sample C# application. Select C#, drill down into Windows, and let's go ahead and select a WPF application. For the name, you can use the default name, the location can be whatever you would like it to be, and the solution can also be whatever you would prefer. We'll use the defaults for now. Select OK to create the application.